I'm Johnny K. This is part 14. Install the harmonic balancer and accessories on the Big Block Chevy. Alright, we got a lot of work to do today. So it's 6 a.m. Trying to beat the heat. It's supposed to be about 99 degrees today. Hot. So this is the Chloe's timing chain cover. It's a two-piece cover. You got one here, this comes off, and then you can access that cam bushing if you have to dial in your timing. Next we got our timing cover set, our gaskets and seals. We're going to take this seal out and insert it into here. So what I like to do, I'll take some RTV and I'll just put a thin layer right in here. And then this is a regular seal installer. It's got like a recessed lip. Just fits over the seal and you just tap it down. If you don't have this, you can go ahead and just take your seal, lay it flat in there, and then just place a 2x4 over that and tap it down. We install our seal. I just get a tube of this Permatic 66C, a caulk gun. Just makes it easier to assemble your motor for the oil pan, the timing chain. It's clear, doesn't make a mess. So that's up to you, but that's what I like to use. And also, we'll take a little assembly grease. We'll just put a little grease right on the seal itself. And then we'll put some Never Sees on the crankshaft where the harmonic balancer slides on. Alright, so before you apply sealant to this, I just like to take some brake cleaner. Just make sure all the surfaces are nice and clean. Always make sure your little dowel pins here, that they're clean. If you paint your block, you don't cover those up, you'll have a little paint on there. Take some emery cloth, just clean those off. And what I like to do, before I put the timing chain cover on, I just take some assembly grease. I'll just smear it on the timing chain. Okay, now we'll apply some Permatex Clear to here. We'll put our gasket on. Then we'll apply sealant to the outside of the gasket, place our timing chain cover on. I'll take some Never Sees. I'll just put a little thin layer on. And it's not paint, so you don't have to put it on thick or put 3 coats on. Just a real thin layer. Okay, so we got grease on our timing chain. We have Never Sees on our crankshaft hub. So now we're going to install the timing chain cover. When we go install our harmonic balancer, it's going to be pressed on and it's going to hit the timing chain crank sprocket here. It's going to be tight up against that. Now we got our bolts on. We can go ahead and take our torque wrench. We'll torque these to 13 foot-pounds of torque. Now we're going to put on the harmonic balancer. I got my motor rotated. I have 2 keys. This is a double keyed crank for the blower. I take a little Never Sees and I'll just put it on the inside of the hub. Just a real thin layer once again. Then we're going to insert our insert for the harmonic balancer install tool. And I like to put a little Never Sees on the threads, thin to the wind. And the final thing I do, I just take some 30 weight oil and I'll spray it onto the hub here. Okay, with our $25 installer, we ran the harmonic balancer up as far as we could, and then the washer kind of hits the front of the crank, and we have to go on a little further. So I opted to get a 2-inch outside diameter little piece of muffler pipe, just kind of like a boulder washer. This fits in my harmonic balancer. Put that over, put my tool back on there, and then we can finish pushing it on all the way. Okay, that's it. It's solid. Now the hub is tight up against the crankshaft timing gear sprocket. Now you would install your harmonic balancer bolt. You would torque that. However, I have the blower, so there's a couple more pieces I have to install. This is a locating pilot bushing for the V-belt accessory drive pulley, and it just helps to locate everything and center everything onto the harmonic balancer, because we're bolting a pulley, the blower pulley, onto the dual groove V-belt pulley. So anyway, so you just put this spacer in, this little pilot bushing, never sees on the threads. This is a real light coat, a little bit of never sees. Run that in, and then we're going to torque this to 80 foot-pounds of torque. Okay, so one thing you can do if you don't have anybody to give you a hand to hold back while you're trying to torque the harmonic balancer bolt, you can go ahead and run a bolt in the flywheel, and that bolt's going to hit against the engine bracket. As I turn the torque wrench, it's going to make contact. Bang, there you go. So that's one other thing that you can do. Alright, now that I have my harmonic balancer bolt torqued to 80 foot-pounds, I got some spacers that go behind my accessory pulley. I already had to space it out, so I know I needed them. They call for red Loctite on the 3 bolts, 1, 2, and 3. I like to use the blue Loctite. Been using the blue for 20 years. The bolt's never backed off. A little easier to take it apart versus the red Loctite. But that choice is up to you. They recommend red Loctite. I use the blue, never had a problem. Since I'm reusing my old bolts, I always clean them. You can either do this by hand with a wire brush, or I use a bench grinder with a fine wire wheel to clean my bolts. Just a tip. And then go ahead and apply your Loctite to these 3 bolt and install your accessory pulley. The accessory pulley gets bolted, torqued to 20 foot-pounds of torque. Alright, now that your V-belt accessory pulley is bolted to the harmonic balancer, you want to torque that to 20 foot-pounds of torque. And make sure she's not loose. Okay, she's solid. I tried some little longer bolts. They're about 1/4 inch longer, and I torqued them down, and you could actually take the pulley and just move it, or just like a 30-second of wobble in it. So I took those out and put the old bolts back in. But she's solid. Now we'll bolt on our blower pulley. One other thing I just wanted to point out is the lower blower pulley bolts. They have this star washer. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out, and then use some blue Loctite, put it on your bolt. Okay, here's a tip for the new guys. If you're new to working on cars, it's kind of like when you put a rim on your car, you're going to tighten the lug nuts. Maybe you heard somebody tell you always do a crisscross pattern or a star pattern. That's the same thing on here. You never want to tighten all your bolts in a circle. You never want to just tighten the hell out of one bolt and then tighten the rest up that way. You always want to try to crisscross the pattern, tighten the bolts up evenly, and you'll torque them in that sequence also.